Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. My name is Camel, and more importantly, welcome back to the Curating Curiosities series for a long-awaited new episode. In this video today, I will be curating to you the curious curiosities that can be found within the region of Cyrodiil, known as the Gold Coast. Now, before we get curating, timestamps for each of the curiosities in this video can be found down in the description and in the comments. Now, down there are also links to all of my other Curating Curiosities videos via the playlist link, along with all of my social media links, so be sure to check them all out after this video. And definitely come drop into my Twitch streams, where we actually streamed the entire creative process behind this video. So if you want to come hang out, watch some games, or watch some behind the scenes stuff, highly recommend clicking the link to Twitch in the description. And finally, be sure to check out my merch store for hot products like this Camel Elder Scrolls blanket that will keep you warm while also looking stylish and mummifying you in arcane lore. There are plenty of unique items on the merch store to suit your needs, wants, and lusts, while also helping support the channel at the same time. It's win-win. But for now, let us move to the more Aurum realms of Cyrodiil. The Gold Coast, also known as the Strident Coast, is the second smallest region of Cyrodiil. Its banner is comprised of an interlocking pattern with arrows and small diamond frills, presented in earthen colors. To the northeast, it shares regional borders with the Clovian Highlands, and the West Weald to the east. To the north, one may find Hammerfell, home of the Redguard, with provincial separation marked by the Brenner River, across which hot winds blow. Similarly, to the southeast rests the jungle kingdom of the Wood Elves, Vale and Wood, separated from the Imperial homeland by the Strid River. And to the southwest, off of the glimmering shores of the Gold Coast, lies the Abecean Sea, a wet wilderness steeped in folktales of aquatic wonders, magical marine mysteries, and sanguineous stories of swashbuckling scurvy scamps, such as those of Velexane, the Dremora pirate king of the Abecean. Check the link above if you want to get your hands on his booty. Booty meaning treasure, of course. Now, the Gold Coast is host to many mysteries and long-forgotten secrets, which is no surprise given its salubrious weather, favorable locality, and easily accessible harbor. To the north, the auspiciously arid highlands descend suddenly to the coastline at a problematical pitch, making traversing this section of the region a risky endeavor. Towards the Gold Coast's capital city, Anvil, the mountainous elevation slopes more pleasantly down to the sea line, rendering it a much more common point of access to the Abecean Sea. The Gold Road casts northeast, passing Kvatch at the border of the county. There are few paved or even bare passages that accompany the Gold Road within the Gold Coast, making exploration of this torrid terrain an exciting and venturesome expedition. Visually, the region has been blessed by the summer gods, gilt and glowing with the apricity of Magnus's kiss, which warmly washes over all who walk these lands. The gilded fields flow sweepingly across the divine rolling knolls and aesthete acclivities. Estival zephyrs play pleasant, susurrating tunes to Kinnereth through the wilderness, brushing across the golden summer grasses and through the branches of tall custodian cedars. This warm and pleasing place one instinctively likes. Interestingly, the Gold Coast does not get its name from the sandy, pallid saffron shores at the water's edge, but instead from the endless seas of aureate veld found covering the entirety of the Gold Coast. Undoubtedly one of the region's most recognizable traits. Many small and vibrant shrubs assist in the ground coverage, which, along with the grasses, are overshadowed by large oak, pine, and other burgeoning evergreens. This balmy atmosphere, combined with beautiful long sunny days, has led to the Gold Coast being a flourishing garden, ripe with a massive array of alchemically viable and valuable plants. Here one may find aloe vera, arrowroot, bergamot, fennel, both red and yellow flax, both red and yellow ginseng, goldenrod, lady's mantle, lily of the valley, mandrake, milk thistle, morning glory, nernroot, sacred lotus, St. John's wort, tiger lily, and water hyacinth. While this does provide a cornucopia of ingredients to alchemists, rather strangely, not a single fungus of any variety can be found within this region. I can only assume that all the spaces were filled and there just wasn't much room left. Now, the climate that made way for this estival flora to flourish has provided a perfect home for a healthy array of fauna as well, as butterflies flitter ludically about the aurum bosks, resting fleetingly to sip deep on cloying nectar. Dragonflies dart busily, riding warm windful whisks, and buzz about their buggish business. Hawks, gulls, and wood raptors soar proudly across the basking blue sky, wings spread in glide. Clams clutter the sandy seabed, congregated into clusters, forming pearl-picking platters. Slaughterfish squirm voraciously through the beryl brine, seeking a snack to snap their grotesque and gaping razored maws upon. Mud crabs scuttle athwart the salted sands, mouthparts foaming while sifting through flotsam, awaiting the next novice adventurer to pinch, mince, and butcher. Fawn, doe, and stag boundingly frolic among the auriferous fields, evading fanged predator and imperial forester. Lone wolves snarl through speciously peaceful paddocks, prowling pussy-footed on their predacious padded paws. Boar sprockle and oink through thistled thickets with snort and rumbled snuffle as they forage for acorn and truffle. And mountain lions slink astride bold blonde buffs, skulking stealthily betwixt sun-soaked swards. Now, while the flora and fauna are rich, so too is the Gold Coast's character. Scars, monuments, and shadows of its long history pepper the now piquant pastures. Rock-rot-riddled forts built of dynasties long past crown horizontal hilltops like salt-stained cockle shells on a Thracian sea king's crown. Ruined cities rest as forlorn echoes of the Alien Empire. The buried, bleached, and broken stones serve as funebrial evocations of an elven age annihilated by the Nedic Elysian Crusade, which was set to eradicate, driven by the bloodlust of the blazing, sinistral gauntlet of Pelennor Whitestrake. Alien wells hum in forgotten corners, emitting a sickly green arcane energy for brave sorcerers to harness. Way shrines to the nine divines moulder meditatively in prayerful groves, and stand silently on studious tours. Doomstones and runestones lurch from the soil like Kabbalistic limestone warts on a witch's musty nose. Now, the Gold Coast was supposedly once ruled by the Cyrodiilic bird people, then by the Heartland Elves, the Ayleid, who were overthrown by the Needs, who were conquered by the Cryo-Nords, and after much conflict and war over the millennia, it is now, of course, populated and ruled by the Imperials. This ruthless past has left many mysteries and secrets tucked away in the gilded grasses and aurum woods. As our eyes lay claim upon the wilderness before us, our imagination is bolstered, igniting with visions of the wonders to be uncovered. So with that golden introduction, let us set foot into this glimmering geological gem and take a look at the curious curiosities that can be found within the Gold Coast. For our first curiosity, we will be heading to the city of Anvil, where there is something that has bothered me for years. If you have ever been to the seaside city of Anvil, no doubt you have stopped and looked and admired the Mermaid statue, or at the very least you've seen it in passing. Now, as someone who has experienced a fair bit of what the Elder Scrolls has to offer, I've always wondered why I'd never seen nor even heard about a mermaid within the lore apart from this statue. Which raises the question of what is this mermaid statue doing here within a city? Well, it turns out that the mermaids within the Elder Scrolls universe are much the same as mermaids are in real life. They are a myth, a legend, just folklore. And while you might think you've seen a mermaid or heard about a mermaid, I can assure you, you probably haven't, as there are a few creatures that do exist within the Elder Scrolls universe that could be confused as a mermaid. Some people think the Mayama, the sea elves, are mermaids, but they do in fact have 2 legs and they basically look like a normal elf with a really weird skin tone. There are, of course, Nereids, which are water spirits, and they do very much exist within the Elder Scrolls universe, but, they have legs, and they definitely aren't mermaids. There is the Medusa from the Elder Scrolls Arena and the Lamia, which are both feminine snake-like people. Again, they do look mermaid-ish, but they aren't mermaids. I have seen a lot of people online confusing these creatures that we just mentioned as mermaids, so I thought it was important to clarify that point, that they are in fact different. Now, with that said and out of the way, there are a few obscure references to mermaids within the Elder Scrolls lore, as there is a ship named the Merry Mermaid. There is also a tavern called the Screaming Mermaid, and there is a fountain within the Shivering Isles which is comprised of mermaids. But apart from that, there aren't any reported sightings of mermaids. There is, however, one very important tale that we'll get to in a minute or so. Firstly, however, there is something else very curious. The Mermaid of Anvil, this statue, is said to have been standing well before any foundational stone was laid for the city of Anvil itself. There aren't even any records of who built it. It has quite simply just always been here. So, with that, it is believed that the mermaid was built as a depiction of a deity, as that deity appeared to some ancient civilization, which, of course, raises the question, which civilization? The Birdmen of Cyrodiil, which we're not even sure if they actually existed. The Aliads, perhaps? Perhaps it was the Mayama, the Sea Elves. Could it have been the Slode, or even the Dreg? Sadly, no one knows. Also, the size and scale, get it, overshadows most statues within Cyrodiil that do actually represent deities. So this mysterious mermaid sure meant a lot to someone a long time ago. Now, if we want to get into which deity, I would put my money on it being Azura, and this mermaid figure is simply how Azura chose to appear before some ancient race, as the mermaid looks somewhat similar to how Azura appears within the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, although this resemblance might be due to the outfit, or lack thereof. Her black dress does kind of look like a tail, but then again, Daedric princes can take whatever form they like, so Azura or any of the Daedra could have appeared to an early civilization looking like a mermaid. But that is of course speculation, although based on good reasoning, as you don't just build some giant statue in the shape of a creature that doesn't exist for no reason. I am very interested to hear who you think this statue represents, or even what it represents, and who built it. Don't forget, it was built here well before Anvil was built. Very strange indeed. So now, let's move on to the most interesting part of this. If we look at the mermaid statue, it sure looks like a mermaid, right? Well, if we inspect the tail of the mermaid statue closer, we will notice that it's not actually a fishtail at all. If we look at the gap that runs up the middle of the mermaid's tail, well, it's the same as a seal tail, or a similar creature, where over millions of years, a land-dwelling mammal has gone back into the ocean, and evolution has slowly turned its hind feet into a more tail-like shape, better for swimming. That is why seals have the gap up the middle of their tail, because they're technically 2 feet. The point to that, of course, is that it's the same tail that the quote-unquote mermaid has. But if it's a seal tail and not a fish tail, then it's not a mermaid at all. Now, as far as I'm aware, seals, the animals, do not exist within the Elder Scrolls universe, although hawkers do of course, but the seal part is interesting and important, because in Celtic mythology, there is a creature known as a Selkie, which is a mystical woman who can transform from humanoid to seal or anything in between. Now, this is interesting because it would seem that the statue, the Mermaid of Anvil, is not a mermaid at all, but instead she is a Selkie. And it sure took some digging, but I did find one reference to this within the lore. So the, again, Mermaid of Anvil has many names: the Brine Maiden, the Leggy Lass, the Salty Serenader, the Stone Seductress, and the Selkie of West Skerry. Before anyone gets confused, a skerry is a small rocky island, the kind of thing a mermaid would sit on. And this location, West Skerry, is actually not mentioned anywhere within the Elder Scrolls lore apart from this reference. So who knows where that is? West, I guess. Now, the only place that the words Selkie, West Skerry, and Seals are mentioned in all of the Elder Scrolls is in a small paragraph on page 353 of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion official game guide, where it has a map of Anvil and marked where the Mermaid of Anvil statue is the number 31, and the entry for number 31 says, and I quote, "Statue, the Selkie of West Skerry. The seal maid's lover stole the Selkie's seal skin, hoping to keep her from leaving him for the sea. But the lover's wife had secretly cut the skin in two, leaving one part so the Selkie might find it. The Selkie donned her partial skin and discovered herself neither seal nor maid, but half seal, half maid. She fled the land, but is said to guide lost mariners to land in the dense fogs of the Gold Coast." So, here we have her referenced as a Selkie, which she is due to her tail, and it also references seals, which are not referenced anywhere else within the Elder Scrolls universe. So, while much mystery still shrouds her statue, we can in fact truthfully proclaim that she is in fact not a mermaid at all, but a Selkie. So the next time you're in town, be sure to visit this mythical statue, whip out your phone, and take a Selkie with her. For this next curiosity, we will be heading to the city of Anvil and down to its bustling port. The harbour is filled with life as ships come and go from all around Tamriel. Sails drink away their sea legs, traders hustle and bustle about the wooden docks. Workers lug cargo and luggage to and from the creaking galleons. Citizens partake in leisurely hobbies and bask in the pleasant safety of Anvil's marvellous marina. Conversations about whether or not one has heard of the High Elves ring out in the distance as the township goes about its day. But below all of this quotidian activity, something lurks beneath our noses and the water's surface. If we head to the northernmost pier of Anvil's docks, resting at the feet of the wooden support beams caked in old silt and sand, is an old, waterlogged chest. It is unlocked, and within it we can find the scoffable random leveled loot of 1 gold and a silver tankard. At first I thought, how could a chest accidentally end up here? But after seeing its contents, I am inclined to believe it was willingly thrown overboard. It could have even served as a ship's trash can, and they just lobbed it over the side of the ship. It is of course also possible that it fell off of a ship, although I would imagine if this is the case, it must have gone unnoticed, as it would have been very easy to retrieve. The awful quality of the loot within it could also indicate that someone swam down here and took all the good stuff and left what we find here. To close this disappointing find, I'm trying to think of a funny trash-related joke, but honestly, all the ones I've come up with, just like this chest and its contents, they're all rubbish. For our next curiosity, we have the trivial Trove of the Abecean. We can find this on the southern-facing side of a tiny island just to the south of the Anvil Lighthouse. Here, resting on the soothing sandy atoll, is a weathered wooden chest, battered by rain, hail, and sand, stained and cracked by salt and sun, waterlogged and warped by the ebb and flow of the tides. It is not locked, and within it we can find more drab random leveled loot. It would seem some kind of Homewares bandit has struck again, leaving only 8 gold pieces and another silver glass, just to add to the collection for our dining table. Which is weird, because a glass is called a glass because it's made of, you guessed it, glass, not silver. Now, unlike the loot, there is actually one thing I find rather interesting here, and that is that the positioning of the chest, while at face value it seems remote and well hidden, it actually faces the mouth of the harbour. So every single boat, canoe, swimmer, trade ship, galleon and naval war galley has full view of this chest as they come and go from Anvil's port. So my wonder is, why has no one spotted this chest on their way past and thought, oh, I'll go and check out that chest in 8 seconds when we dock? It seems a bit odd. Maybe there's some kind of local folktale about it being cursed, or maybe once again all the good stuff has been plundered. Although taking all the good stuff and leaving 8 gold, that also seems a bit strange. It's a mystery too obscure and wrought with plot holes for me to debunk, or in this case, detrunk. Next we have Fort Sutch, the old city, which while it is a marked location has a rather interesting story to tell. It can be found right here on the map, at the Fort Sutch map marker, funny that. Now in the final release of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, Fort Sutch is just that, a rundown, ruined fort, a simple dungeon. But in the lore from previous games, Sutch was one of the great cities of Cyrodiil, much like Shadenhall or Anvil or Skingrad or, one of the other cities. However, this great state city did not make its way into the final version of the game. Even more intriguingly, however, is that Sutch was actually a fully fleshed out great city during the game's development. As we can see in this screenshot here from 2005's E3 demo of Oblivion, we can see the city of Sutch in the top left corner of the map. We can also see it here in the demo version's main menu, in which the background pans across the map of the province, where we can once again see the city of Sutch. Why it was removed from the final version of the game is unknown, but Sutch is referenced as a city in a few journal entries found throughout the game, as it would appear that they simply weren't changed after the city of Sutch was downgraded to a meager fort. Interestingly, while the fort of Sutch looks small and menial, there are many large ruins in the surrounding area suggesting that Sutch was once much larger, perhaps to give the sentiment that Sutch was once a great city that has since been lost and forgotten to time and conflict. Also rather curiously, outside of Fort Sutch, there are tufts of a very green grass that cannot be found anywhere else within the Gold Coast region. It also kind of looks like it could make up a series of symbols from above, perhaps letters, but if this is the case, my keen eye and keen mind are unable to pry the truth from them. All in all, a strange fort, left as a skeleton of something much greater. It would have been nice to see the city of Sutch at its height, but alas, we can't have it all. Such is the way of life. For this next one, we'll be heading to the far western edge of the Gold Coast, just above the peninsula which cradles the Strid River, which of course separates Cyrodiil from Hammerfell to the northwest. On the map, we'll need to come right here where my character is currently located, just to the northwest of Varus Camp. Here we will find beautiful highlands dotted with mossy boulders and swaying seas of gilded grasses. At the base of a large boulder, we will find this, which at first glance doesn't seem to be anything too interesting at all. But there is indeed a chest hidden in the thick foliage once again. Oblivion loves its chests that you can't see. Luckily, this one is unlocked and is untarnished by the Homewares Highwayman. However, its contents are equally as insulting, as inside this chest we can find 1 gold. Not some gold, not a pile of gold or even a handful of gold, but a gold, a single solitary septim. It's almost worse than no loot, but I must admit, it's slightly better than another glass or bowl. So let's take our single gold piece and be on our way, in search of something that's actually of high interest. And no, I don't mean a mortgage. As for now, we will be heading to our next curiosity, which is a wonderful watery enigma. For this salty sojourn, we will need to head west of Anvil, where off of the coastline we will spot a rather proud islet. Once we make our way atop this, from the northern tip we'll need to face due west and dive into the cool tropical waters of the Abecean Sea. Once we are fully submerged, we must swim like a stone down into the blue abyss. At the bottom, at the sandy seabed, we will spot a large boulder and a small rock close together but parted by a gap. Between them, something gleaming in the murky haze. This is where we can find our next curiosity, the legendary helmet of Gleam. On the map, it can be found right here where my character is currently located. As we can see, it's just to the west of the small island, both of which are due west of Anvil. Here we can find a true treasure of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, the besotted skeleton of some poor soul long dead, with bones picked clean by the sea creatures many moons ago. Sitting next to the skull of this lost adventurer is a unique helmet, Gleam, one of the most hidden unique items in the game. So much so that we covered it in the video linked above, showing the most hidden unique items in Oblivion. How strange. Now, while Gleam actually has worse stats than its standard glass helmet counterpart, its enchantment does some very heavy lifting for the item's overall usability, as it provides a constant effect of Detect Life, Night Eye, and Water Breathing, all rather useful enchantments to have at the ready. But all of those magical effects couldn't save this poor, forgotten fool. No one knows who this person was, where they came from, or how they died. And the helmet Gleam is of equal mystery. It is not named in any book, uttered from any mouth, nor mentioned in any other Elder Scrolls game. It's a truly unknown and secret item previously long lost to the monstrously deep and all-consuming salted maw of the Abecean Sea. Because of these informational parameters, or lack thereof, our imagination reels with fanciful tales and can all but actually pinpoint what happened here. We do know one thing though: whoever this was did not drown, as the helmet that they were wearing when they died provides a constant water-breathing effect. So they couldn't have drowned. Maybe they were an adventurer exploring the ocean floor and were swarmed by slaughterfish or some other diabolical aquatic beast. Maybe they were a heroic sailor and killed in some epic naval battle, falling overboard and sinking to the still sea bottom, swallowed and forgotten. Or an interesting theory that I have is that Gleam has an enchantment on it that only when its wearer dies, it gains an enchantment that would have saved its wearer. So, someone who wore Gleam died, and the thing that would have saved them would have been Detect Life, so it took that on. The next person who found it and picked it up would have been saved if they had a Night Eye effect. So, when they died, Gleam took on that effect. And now this person, when they found Gleam, needed water breathing. So, when they drowned in the waters here, Gleam took on that effect. That is pure headcanon and totally not what's happening, but it's a pretty cool theory. So whoever this was, their life's deeds, travesties, achievements, and accolades washed away by this fathomed grave. For this next curiosity, we must head to the western edge of the Gold Coast, and to the now ruined ancient Ayleid city of Garlas Malatar. Before falling into ruin, Garlas Malatar was the westernmost outpost of the entire Ayleid Empire, in line with some in Bankurai located in northern Hammerfell. Once we arrive here, we'll need to tear our wondered gaze away from the stunning fossil of what once was and head due north, stepping from the golden shores and slipping into the Abecean Sea once more. The landmass quickly falls beneath our feet, and as we plunge below into the cool water, a sunken Ayleid watchtower will reveal itself. On the map, this can be found right here where my character is currently located, to the northwest of the Garlas Malatar map marker, which is off its mark, funnily enough, as we are actually directly north of the actual physical city. Any which way, once we arrive at this submerged remnant of that which once stood strong and proud, we can actually spot something that sticks out against the bold architectural motif. This is an Ayleid cask, potentially a vault for treasures. Time and the sea have not been kind to the mechanisms which seal this chest tight. Rust, gunk, and grime have taken their claim over the ancient Ayleid intricacies within. On top of this, the chest has a hard lock level, making reaping the fruits within an even more testing exercise. Once we do manage to prick back the archaic pins and forcefully rip back the water-laden lid, inside we will find what the Ayleids left behind. A scroll of damage fatigue, 2 petty soul gems, a flawed ruby, and a flawed topaz. No doubt the work of random level loot, but probably the best we can find within the Gold Coast. But I have a question. Think, if you will, of this tower once standing tall and proud, at the height of its purpose, and then someone put a chest on top of it, a secret stash perhaps. The thing is, it would have been in such an inaccessible place. Mayhaps this was from a time when the Ayleids freely harnessed the power of levitation, as they were arcanely erudite, and such feats were likely common in their culture. Sadly, the answers to these questions have been washed away by time and salt. Now, this rests as only a drowned shrug on our shoulders. For our next curiosity, we have the Ghost Gallion grave, which can be found in a small cove at the mouth of the Brenner River. On the map, it can be found here where my character is currently located, to the west of Malakath's shrine. As we approach from the south, we'll make our way over a small wooden bridge that shifts beneath our feet as its rotten foundations warp and groan. At the end of this small pier is a rather tall spit of sand and rock that seems to have been the demise of this galleon, which now rests half submerged and shipwrecked on the lapping shores. This vessel remains nameless, as no information of its past or origins can be found. The impact of whatever felled this begone boat was of a massive scale, as multiple fatal fractures dot the hull like a pox. Glass windows are shattered, whole plank panels have been rent from the body and flung afar. Support beams cracked and snapped like twigs beneath a giant's foot. The masts are splintered, torn in twain, their iron holding bands ripped, wrenched, and bent. Mold and algae stain the timber a sickly virid green, and barnacles cling to their wooden forever home. The ship is in such a sorry state that it cannot even be entered, as its doorways and passages have been ruined beyond traversable recognition. If we plunge our heads down below the water surface, we can see that the anchor was not even dropped, so the boat must have been moving at the time of its demise, making the likelihood of it crashing and becoming shipwrecked more likely, over saying being attacked by pirates or something of the sort. Although, with that said, this could have been a pirate ship, so who knows, honestly. Anything to do with the Abecean Sea is hard to pinpoint given its thriving and lively mysteries. One thing I have noticed though is that there are absolutely no traces of the crew. There isn't one skeleton, one journal, nothing. Maybe they survived, or maybe they were harvested by something more dire than we dare dream. Or simply picked to pieces by the mud crab and slaughterfish of the area. Among all of this desolate history, there is some sign of activity after the ship's shattering, however, as on the small island of fine white sand by the wreck, we can find some crates, barrels, and 2 chests. They could have been carried off by the surviving crew or plundered by scavengers well after. One of the chests sits pried open, revealing the meager loot within, consisting of a silver urn and a silver tankard. both are rather lackluster in value and will only yield a sorry handful of septims at market. The second chest remains closed but unlocked. Inside we can find a small sum of gold. I'm not sure if this ship carried nothing of value or these are the crumbs left behind after another party reaped the wealth of the wreckage. All we really do know is that we really don't know anything about what happened here. Much like the ship, I haven't got a clue as to what happened here. Innocent navigational mistake, treacherous seas, or an attack by some ocean-faring legend that would make us landlubbers shake in our boots. For now though, unlike this ship, we are going to set sail once again on our quest for the curiosities within the Gold Coast. For this next curiosity, we have the Homeware Highwayman's Hold. It can be found right here on the map, where my character is currently located, just to the southeast of Garlas, Abecean. Here, we will find ourselves stepping across a gentle, agrestic slope. Green and golden shrubs and grasses sprout from its surface. Large lichen-caked boulders litter the area like a divine game of marbles that has been abandoned. Up against the largest of the stones, beside a red flax plant, and next to long waving fingers of chromatic swords, there is a wooden chest lingering, obscured to the average eye by a wonderful dancing cloak of chartreuse foliage. Inside this chest, we can find random leveled loot that drives yet another dagger into our explorer's heart. We've been struck by the Homewares Highwayman yet again, leaving atrocious loot, as all we have here is a silver goblet, worth a measly 3 gold pieces. Such lack of luck is cast upon few in Tamriel, but alas, here we are with no treasure, but yet another item to fill our dining room. For this next one, we will need to head to the western highlands of the Gold Coast. Here we will find a boulder-filled meadow with thick thickets masking crags of leg-snapping depth. It's a dangerous trot, to be sure. Between 2 large turf-topped rock shelves, there lies a secret nestled in an occult nook, disguised from all prying eyes. Sheltered beneath a bushel of aurum grass is yet another wooden chest, and I will be very cross if it contains more silverware. With a brave face and our hearts steadied for despondency, we lift the lid to discover that the Homewares Highwayman has in fact not touched this stash. It would seem that this chest was even too obscured for his or her devilish eyes, as inside we can find 2 iron arrows and a sum of 6 gold. I'd like to consider these projectiles as metaphorical arrows to the knees of the Homewares Highwayman. Who knows, perhaps they used to be an adventurer like you. But who placed this chest here? We can never really say. I have no doubt, however, if they ever try and find this chest again, they will not be able to. It is so hidden that it's harder to find than information on the Elder Scrolls 6. For our next curiosity, we have a rather interesting one. For this, we will need to head to Anvil Castle, seat of Countess Milona Umbranox. Once here, we are going to be sneaking our way onto a very secret little spot, the Royal Balcony, only accessible through the 2 locked doors of the private quarters and the Royal Quarters. Once here, amid a charming myriad of rather palatially placed paraphernalia of leisurely delights, we may just spot something petite resting upon the wooden tabletop. This is a base ring of restoration, which, at face value, may not seem all that interesting. Hell, it's not even a unique item. So why are we here, you ask? Well, curiously, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion has very few guaranteed enchanted item locations out in the wilderness. There are plenty of magical pieces that can be haggled from merchants or given as quest rewards or gathered from the corpses of mighty foes. But magical items that just sit out in the open, well, there are only 5 or so of them in the entire game, and this is one of them. Its enchantment fortifies restoration by 6 points, and again, it's nothing stunning from a spellcaster's perspective. But from the eyes of a curator of the curious like myself, this ring is spellbinding, being one of only a small handful of guaranteed enchanted items out in the open world in the entirety of this massive game. The others we will of course cover in videos when we talk about their respective regional locations, and of course Gleam is one of the items I'm talking about, so we have already covered one of them. Now while we are up here, there is also a chest that can be found resting against the northwesternmost wall. It will be unlocked, and inside our random leveled loot luck has bolstered somewhat, as inside we can find a potion of the sea, which will provide water breathing for 45 seconds, which seems ever so fitting as we're in a castle next to a massive seaport. So that is finally a breath of fresh air when it comes to the loot that we've been finding throughout the Gold Coast. All in all, a cool hidden little balcony holding some loot and a wonderfully rare item, the base Ring of Restoration. And especially once we take into consideration its class of guaranteed open world enchanted item, I think we should call it the based Ring of Restoration. For our next curiosity, we will need to head to a small stone gateway that can be found along the Gold Road on the northwesternmost corner. On the map, it is right here where my character is currently located, directly to the south of Lord Drad's estate. So here we will spot a rather uninspiring stone gate, marking the southern point of a dirt pathway. Well, just beyond the eastern point of the gateway, there is a bushel of dry golden grasses. Against the fieldstone masked by fronds, we can actually find yet another chest, a chest that better contain some damn good loot. It does have a hard lock, which could very well indicate that the quality of the loot within it is pretty good. Unfortunately, we have been struck once again by that damned Homewares Highwayman, as inside we can find a silver glass. While we were hoping to kit out our character, instead we will be kitting out our kitchen cupboards even more. Darn it, let's get out of here before I break the glass and stick shards of it into my neck. For this next one, we will be heading more to the center of the Gold Coast region and into the rolling, effulgent fields. On the map, we'll need to come right here where my character is currently located, just to the southwest of Gotshore Inn. Here, next to the Gold Road, we'll see a massive turf-crowned boulder. You will not believe what is concealed within the oscillating overgrowth. There is indeed a chest, but there is something else here. I have had to disable the grass so that we can actually see it, but there is in fact a book resting here just next to the wooden trunk. It is a book titled Myth or Menace, written by an anonymous author, and it is essentially conjecture as to the existence of the modern Thieves Guild. Little did the author know that yes, they do in fact exist. Perhaps the book was written by the Thieves Guild themselves to create an air of dubiousness and uncertainty around the existence of the Thieves Guild. But with the book aside, literally, I know you were wondering what amazing treasure could be buried within this chest. And look, given our track record, let's not get our hopes up, eh? Luckily, it is unlocked, and inside we can find 7 gold, and yet another fatal strike to our wonder for treasure. A strike driven by the notorious Homewares Highwayman, wounding our spirit with a silver pitcher. Perhaps because this book is here with the chest, the Homewares Highwayman was part of the Thieves Guild, or maybe wanted to be, leaving stashes of stolen items all around the wilderness, hoping to gain some attention from the elusive guild, when in fact all they have gained is my burning hatred. For this next curiosity, we have something rather strange. For this, we'll need to come right here on the map where my character is currently located, just to the southeast of Anvil City. Here we have a high bluff of the land, where as it traces towards the coast, the land rises. And as I was exploring this vast land, something caught my eye, a strange monolithic structure. I thought it might have been an ancient tree stump, but upon closer inspection, we can see that it is actually a rock. Weirdly though, it's much darker and doesn't match the surrounding stone of the area. It also appears to be volcanic and jagged, and has a form that once again does not match anything else we see within the Gold Coast. To me, it seemed to be one of the igneous rocks that we can find within the plains of Oblivion. So I went deep, I checked within the construction set for Oblivion, and it is in fact an asset, a stone that is used in the Deadlands, Mehrunes Dagon's Plane of Oblivion, the Plane of Oblivion that we experience within, you guessed it, the Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion. What's curious is that yes, while there is an Oblivion gate that spawns here, my character hasn't progressed through the main quest line at all, so the Oblivion crisis has not begun yet. So there should be no sign of anything Oblivion related at all within Tamriel. This is very strange, as it suggests that this point, this pillar here, is somehow tethered to the Deadlands, Mehrunes Dagon's Plane of Oblivion. It is a piece of Oblivion in Tamriel before the Oblivion crisis. This is a very perplexing occurrence, and making it even more odd is this giant rock next to the pillar, as if we inspect the southern facing side of it, we can see some weird texture on the ground right at the edge of the boulder. It's nothing too obvious or alarming, but it does look kind of out of place. Well, if we clip through the big rock, we can actually see that the ground beneath it is cracked and flame-riddled. It is the ground from Oblivion. This monolith appears to be some kind of active link to the Deadlands. Maybe the Mythic Dawn cult has begun creating anchor points across Cyrodiil before the invasion begins. I am not entirely sure of how we can explain this, as I've never really seen anything like it before. I wouldn't quite consider it a pillar of the lore community, but I would consider it a pillar of the lore confusity. For this next one, we will be heading into the northeastern section of the Gold Coast region. Among rolling Aurum hills rest massive stones accompanied by sparse boskage and bushels. On the map, we'll need to come right here where my character is currently located, found just to the north of Gottshore Inn and to the west of Kvatch. Here we will find something that provided a great challenge in spotting. Next to a moss-caked rock, there is a gathering of stout trees, and burrowed between them, veiled in veld, is another chest. This one is unlocked, and inside we may find a crystal ball, 3 gold pieces and a lockpick, which makes this chest one of the best in the entire region. Now, I don't know if you would call a crystal ball Homewares, but for the sake of our sanity, let's say that it's not, and that this chest is actually untouched by the hands of the Homewares Highwayman. This find is honestly nothing special, however, given the loot context of the Gold Coast so far, this really is something to behold. Now, finally, we have what I hope to be a very satisfying conclusion to the Homewares Highwayman. For this, we'll need to come down to the southeastern corner of the Gold Coast region. On the map, it can be found right here where my character is currently standing, just to the southeast of Troll Candle Camp. Upon our arrival, we'll notice a rather odd piece of land that is flat and open, with no grasses growing. At the center is some kind of square, but we'll get back to this in a minute. As just to the north of this open area, we can walk up a very small hill and into a little crag, where hiding in the grass in the back corner is a chest. Within it, we can find 9 gold pieces, seeming to be untouched by the Homewares Highwayman. Now, along with this, just to the east of the flat ground, we can jump down a little ledge where once again hiding in the grass is another chest. It will be unlocked, and within it we can find 3 gold pieces and a silver glass. Our mighty foe strikes again, but I have a crackpot theory that I like to believe to make myself feel better about all this trash treasure that we've been finding. So back to the open ground where the weird square is. This square within the game files is actually called a fire pit, but what's interesting is that it's square and made of stone. Now, this type of fire pit you find inside buildings and not out in the open. Normally in the wilderness you'd find a campfire with a circle of little stones around it, and most certainly not what we find here. To me, this suggests that this wasn't a campground once, this was in fact a house. that was destroyed many ages ago, as this stone fire pit is all that remains, and even it is in a sorry state. Now, given the proximity of the two chests just near this spot, it tells me that someone who liked chests lived here, and who likes chests more than the Homewares Highwayman. My headcanon is that the Homewares Highwayman once lived here, gathering homewares and bric-a-brac, stealing it from all across Cyrodiil to hide it all around the Gold Coast for whatever reason. And some brave hero who was sick of their bullnetch dung came and burned their house down to cinders with them inside. Or maybe it was something less vengeful, like the Homewares Highwayman was drunk on the elation of all their crafty work and dozed off with their fire pit raging, and died in their sleep as their house burnt down around them. These are all, of course, just random pieces of headcanon, but it does seem fitting and just that this would have been the outcome of the Homewares Highwayman. And I hope that, like me, you like that theory. So, thank you very much for watching. I've been Camel, and I do hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed this episode of Curating Curiosities for the beautiful region of Cyrodiil, the Gold Coast. If you did enjoy this video and you would like to see more videos of this type, please consider subscribing. It helps me know that people are interested in this kind of content, and it will result in more of it in the long run. And if you do enjoy these CCC videos, please feel free to check out the playlist link in the description. This will lead you directly to the Curating Curiosities videos I've already done. And if you did learn something new in this video, please leave a like, I'd appreciate it greatly. If you have any theories, backstories, or explanations for any of these curiosities, please leave a detailed explanation of what your thoughts are in the form of a comment down below. I'm very interested in hearing about your conclusions for some of these ever so strange and curious finds within the Gold Coast. The community's collective mind power will be much greater than mine alone, so hopefully together we can come up with all the backstories for these curiosities. Now, down there in the description, you can find links to all of my social media. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and jump over onto Twitch and come hang out. Along with all of that, of course, be sure to check out my brand new and aforementioned merch store with a ton of widely ranged pieces. And if you'd like to become one of my heroic patrons or sponsors, you can of course support the channel that way. As I'm sure you know, all of my time and energy goes into making these videos that I create for you to enjoy. So your support is most genuinely appreciated and welcomed in any and all forms. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I've been Camel, and I'll see you shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.